Denise, do you have your mic on?
Actually welcome new members. Heather and Jeff. Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
First.
Conservation Commission members. And we do have a new alternate, Chris Smith, but he is away. Also, there's one alternate position still open. In the audience. Let's review the minutes. July 19th.
I'll move them.
I have a couple of questions. We don't say the Pledge of Allegiance usually, and that's at the top of the minutes. I think it is standard, yeah. And then I think, Jeff, your name is, on page 2, bottom paragraph, it's AK, correct?
Yep, that is correct. Thank you, Becky.
That's all I saw. Oh, and on the third page, it should be an AK as well. Sorry.
Oh, and on the third page, I have Chris question mark.
Oh, yeah, GNIP. GNIP.
I'll second approval of the minutes as amended.
Aye.
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 Hi.
And abstain.
Approved.
Abstain. Approved.
Next on our agenda is a presentation that we will let Becky introduce.
Yes, everyone. Happy to welcome Anna Boudreau, our consultant, who's been with us since November. We brought her on as a newcomer to conservation. There was conversation that I could use some help and the committee could use some help, so we interviewed and Anna came on. Her background is stellar. She is, I'm going to read my notes here. From about 2000, currently, or her most recent occupation was working as Deputy Director and Director of Development for the Lakes Region Conservation Trust. She was there from 2019 to 23. Prior to that, she was the Land Conservation Specialist and Grant Writer at Truslow Research in Portsmouth, and that was 2014 to 19. And then from 2004 to 2014, she was the Executive Director of the Stratford River Conservancy, which merged with CELT. So she has a lot of experience in grant writing, working with landowners, introducing the issues and the rights of an owner of property who's considering going into easement. She's been very helpful to this commission and to open space. Since we are in the process of closing on a piece of land, she was instrumental in meeting with landowners, guiding us through the process of acquisition of land through fee simple purchase. And we hope to be closing on in the next 6 weeks. So Anna was a great help to me, so I'd like to welcome Anna and thank her for what she's done so far, and the stage is hers. And her microphone could be clicked on right there.
Is it working now? Great.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Becky. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you this past year. And Rob, I look forward to working with you. Are you taking over as chair? No? Open Space Committee? No?
Open space.
Open Space. So those of you who received the agenda of my talk, don't panic. I am not going to go through all those sections. Otherwise, you'd be asleep in about 5 minutes. Rob asked me to let's do a deep dive into the conservation easement deed sections. And I said, well, I can't do that in 15 minutes. So it's a general overview. And I thought for the benefit of new members and experienced members and anyone in the audience, I would do a quick overview of what the heck is a conservation easement. Most people know what it is, but I always like to start with that. I don't want to assume anything. And then we'll go over those key sections and why are they needed. And a lot of times people ask me, why is this such a complicated process and document? And the main reason is because landowners, when they grant a conservation easement to protect their natural resources on their property, take this very seriously. And the easement holders, the grantors, whether it's a land trust, a municipality, the Rockingham Conservation District, they also take it very seriously, and they need to codify those wishes in a document that's actually recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So it's mainly to protect you as the landowners and the towns and municipalities as the easement holders, so everyone knows what we're supposed to be doing. Thankfully, the process is rather onerous, but thankfully most of that work falls to the easement holder, the Conservation Commission members, the planning staff, and land trust staff. Although one thing we do ask landowners to be patient with the process. Those of you who have gone through it know that it can take a long time. I do have handouts for later if you want to delve into those steps. Some people have asked me to document them, but we won't go into that right now. So what is a conservation easement? It's basically a legal agreement, a voluntary and permanent legal agreement between a landowner and a qualified conservation organization. You can't grant it to your uncle or the local school. It has to be an organization that is qualified to take that. That would be a municipality. It might be a county or a state agency, a conservation commission, or a land trust. It's in perpetuity, and it's an actual, there are two things I want you to remember that a lot of people forget, even some board members I've worked with at land trusts. A conservation easement transaction is a real estate transaction. You're actually granting one of your interests in your property to an organization, to a land trust, to a town, and they in turn don't own those development rights. They legally extinguish them, and they are forever obligated to make sure they never get converted to development. So it is a legal transaction, real estate transaction, and all the things involved in, doing a title search. Are you buying it from the right person? Surveys, et cetera, are same as you would with regular legal real estate transaction are involved. The other thing is we work with willing landowners only. We don't go knocking on doors telling people you must conserve your land. People can conserve their land, they can develop their land following the rules, or not do anything. The only danger of not doing anything is years down the road, if you don't put it in writing, it likely will be developed, which is fine because I live in a house. I don't live in the woods in a tree house, but if you want to see it remain conserved, you have to do it legally. So that's a conservation easement. The sections, and I'll go through these, and then we'll have a Q&A because that's, to me, the more exciting part of it. The sections of the easement. So first of all, obviously, you have to list the correct landowners and easement holder. I was at a closing once, this was a long time ago, 15 years ago, where I had the landowner and all the documents. Turns out it was a trust, a revocable trust with herself and her husband. So last minute kerfuffle and shuffling of paperwork with the attorneys, and that was early on in my career. I never did that again. So it just lists the parties entering into the agreement. The easement grantor is the current landowner who's placing the conservation easement on their property. And the easement holder, or some deeds call it the grantee, that's the qualified organization that accepts the conservation easement and is responsible for enforcing and ensuring that those restrictions are followed every year. And that monitoring falls to the Conservation Commission, so they've been very busy. So what are all the various sections? The critical one is the purpose. This is a critical section that establishes the specific conservation values to a property that it's meant to protect. It could be wildlife habitat, biodiversity, protection of your drinking water supply, which has been, when I first started 25 years ago, water supply, water protection wasn't even on the list. Now that's one of the top two. Preservation of forest land or agricultural soils, and sometimes just maintenance of an open space character in your town. There is a danger of just listing one, because the IRS says you should have, this kind of mimics the IRS code 170H, I believe it is. I heard of one easement out in Colorado. They had protected a certain rare species of plant, and then the plant went extinct. So a very savvy attorney, 10 years later, was able to overturn that easement, and it's now a development. So, lesson learned. So that's very critical, and it's usually different in each easement deed because each property is unique. Use limitations. So the deed lists the thou shalls and the thou shalt nots. These are the things you could do. It specifies restrictions placed on it, but things you could do, but there are some conditions. Some of the limitations of things you cannot do is subdivide the property, build a development. That was the whole purpose of granting an easement. Construct any new buildings or structures unless some easements allow agricultural buildings to be built. I'm working on one right now in Sanbornton that they have a maple sugar house and might want to expand. So we're writing that into the easement deed because they're not sure if they want to, but if they don't write it in, it won't happen. Commercial industrial uses are not allowed unless they are associated with agricultural or forest management activities. And extensive changes of topography, like mining, that kind of thing, and taking a bulldozer and moving a lot of land, soil. So those are some of the usual use limitations. Another section is the reserved rights. So most rights are reserved already. You're giving up the right to develop, to dig, but other us remain intact. So we don't have to list all of them because then the document would be even longer than they are now. But it outlines the landowner rights that are explicitly retained for this particular easement, sometimes because some groups include them and some others don't. This might be the right to continue farming. Land trusts that only do forever wild easements, there's no farming, there's no agriculture, there's no forestry. You have to leave it as is. So common reserve rights include farming, forest management activities, timber harvests, right to maintain your trails, the right to build additional agricultural buildings. Usually a specified building envelope is determined in advance on the survey, so you don't put it out in the middle of a very sensitive area. And then recreational activities. Most easement holders do not monitor hunting, fishing. It's best to allow the landowner, to retain the landowner right to post against it or not. It's a tough thing for a Conservation Commission to monitor that. They're gonna sit there every day and make sure no one's hunting. It's kind of difficult. So a lot of things that go into a deed, you have to think if it's a land trust or a town, can I monitor that? If you cannot, it might be best to leave it up to the landowner to post or not post, because it's hard to mandate those things. We're big on landowner rights. What's the next one? Notification of transferred taxes and maintenance. All that means is the town is accepting the development rights, but they're not going to pay your taxes. They're not going to maintain the property. They do want to be notified if the land is going to be transferred, because there's no mechanism at the Registry of Deeds to notify an organization that the land has changed hands. So it's good to keep up with monitoring and good relationships with the landowners and subsequent landowners that it's changed hands. I have seen a deed that surprised me that's allowed the town to mow the fields if the landowner could not, didn't mandate that the town had to, but it allowed it should the landowner not be able to mow their fields and it started growing up to an early successional forest, for example. But I haven't seen that in all of them. Benefits and burdens, that's just in English saying it runs with the land. This is permanent, this is in perpetuity. The restrictions are legally binding and all future owners and property owners have to abide by that, and that's why it's recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Is everyone still awake? I know this is riveting stuff. Pardon? Getting to the good stuff. So affirmative rights of the easement, and there's I hope this matches my outline here. This is the section that grants the easement holder the right to walk the property once a year, because that's their obligation to make sure things are going as they should. And usually it's not the landowner, it's an abutter. Or I've seen illegal timber trespass when there's big acreage and someone comes in the back. So it allows, it's codified in the deed that they're allowed to access the property for annual monitoring visits. It sets
And I think the way we would normally do it is contacting the landowners in advance, seeing if they want to
Yes.
put the property together.
right.
So it's a mutual.
Yeah, usually I mean, it's one of the most exciting things that I'm the chair of my open lands committee in my town, and easement monitoring is one of the most fun things to do, and I get to see the landowners. You're right, we always invite them to join us. Not all of them do, but those conversations, walking the land, are my favorite part. So you're absolutely correct. Let's see, procedures for addressing suspected or confirmed violations. So that's awkward, and it helps when I'm walking the property and I'm like, that looks interesting. You don't want to accuse someone immediately. A, it might not be the landowner. You didn't even know about it. Or B, they didn't understand because they're a new landowner. Oops, that's not allowed. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a note of this and take it back to the committee. You don't accuse right then and there. But it does outline in the deed, okay, if it is a violation, here are the procedures.
What would that typically look like in your experience?
In my experience, and that's the next one, resolution of
Okay,
disagreements,
all
it outlines the ways to, like, first, talking to the landowner and sitting down and going, oh, did you know this? And usually kind of resolves itself. If it doesn't, or if it's a neighbor, sometimes you have to, the goal is not to go straight to court. There are arbitration, it's not happening, or a family member is involved.
But most of the time, do you think it just works out like it's an educational process, or it's a new owner that bought the property and didn't know, or an abutter?
Most of the time, yes. I've had some ugly ones, but in the last, let's see, I've been doing this for 25 years. I think I've had 3 that went to court, and it was pretty bad.
Who's like, this is where I always get a little confused. Like, I think from our experience, normally it's been an abutter that dumps their
Yes.
lawn mowings, or doesn't realize where a property line
Right.
is. Is it usually left up to the easement holder or the owner?
It depends. I start with the landowner, and some of them like, oh, that's my buddy. I don't want them to get a letter from the town bashing
Right.
them. I'll talk to them. And then if it doesn't work, then, okay, did you talk to them? So there's a lot of back and forth. Usually those kinds of things are worked out personally. And sometimes the landowner is like, oh my gosh, that woman's crazy. Can you be the third party that sends a letter? Start with the owner.
And if the landowner doesn't do it, it's the
Then you say,
obligation
okay.
of the easement holder to do it?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, because you're responsible to make sure there are no violations, and that if they're fixable, there've been some where there was, like I said, timber trespass. You can't fix that. So it went to court and they had to pay a certain amount, and that took a while. And the land trust and the town had to pay the court fees, and we tried to get it from the land, it wasn't a forester. They didn't use a licensed forester. This is one of the reasons why we would hire a licensed forester to work with you. It was the logger. Usually they worked out, like I said, 3 in 25 years. And this helps hash it out. Yeah, resolution of disagreements, ways to resolve the issues rather than going directly to court. People used to just, and it's better to talk things out. Breach of easements. Okay, so you do find one. This lays out certain remedies that the easement holder can take on to handle a suspected or proven breach of easement. What's the process? It's a very long section. I think it goes from page 13 to 2 pages. And attorneys spend a lot of time looking at this and tweaking it, and landowners should too. Let's see, executory interest. That's an EI, an executory interest holder, just a backup interest holder. Like if we work with Southeast Land Trust. Southeast Land Trust would probably be the primary easement holder because this is what they do. And then it's good to have the town as a backup. You know, did you do the monitoring? I saw in their easement, if for some reason 100 years from now SELT dissolves, what do you do? It's good to have a named executory interest holder. Otherwise, you have these orphaned easements. I inherited some when I was at Stratford Rivers Conservancy. These little easements, Farmington, and it's like, oh, will you take these? The legal fees and the work involved was as much as a new easement. And we took them because they were orphaned, but.
And normally whenever the town puts any money into any of these, we're always listed as the executory interest.
Yeah.
So I know that the town has several easements that have it. What are our specific responsibilities outside of the primary?
Oh, as the backup? Usually asking for making sure the annual report, you get a copy of that. And if it's not, to kind of nudge them, and because land trusts are busy. Okay, so, beyond that,
Monitor our own properties, and if we find a fault,
mhm.
we've notified the primary easement holder. Never had a problem getting an answer from them, but are we responsible, does the responsibility fall back on the executory interest if the primary accounts are included?
Oh, good question.
I'm sorry. but
No,
that's-
no,
it's been
yeah,
nagging
in a word, yes. SELT would never do that. They are on top of things, but, yes, right. I did up north in the Lakes region work some very tiny regional land trusts that just did not have the capacity. And yes, the backup, the town had to, I spent some time at Conservation Commission, and it was resolved. It was an easy thing. I mean, not a huge legal issue, but yes, if they refuse or can't or don't have the capacity, it does fall to the executory interest holder to remedy it. Yeah. Doesn't happen that often, but it can. Any other questions here that are burning in your mind? Okay.
You're gonna sleep good tonight.
Yeah. Notices, that's just the logistics of how are people notified. Is it mail? Is it email? Now there's digital, so we have to document that it is allowed now, because back 20 years ago, we didn't do email notifications, so that just outlines that. Severability. So this, I have a big question mark. I have not seen this section before. I had this all planned out, and I had 17 items, and then Rob sent me SELT's easement deed, which land trusts and like City of Dover, we update our easements about every 4 or 5 years. I turned to the Forest Society, I turned to SELT. I had not seen that. And I read it, and I think what it means, so I don't know. This is my guess, and I didn't have time to call SELT today. It sounds as though no court decision shall affect the validity of the conservation easement because the land trust could lose its 50C3 certification, its accreditation, like whatever they decide, okay, the family has to deal with that, but they can't undo the easement. I might be wrong. So that's, I have that circled. I want to call them and find out.
We'll wait for your response.
I was like, oh. So.
I think it has to do actually.
Maybe you know.
Well, here's the lawyer.
I've never seen it before. I don't have it in my.
Yeah, severability clause severally means that if one provision
Section,
in
yeah.
here is found to be invalid, it's
Sever
not
the whole
going to
document,
invalidate
the whole
the
document.
remainder. So
Okay.
it means that
There you go.
that provision is severable, found invalid,
But the remaining, thank you.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
your answer.
unless, of course, it's always like
Yeah.
There is one
unless,
around the
yeah,
hour.
unless it's so material to the,
Oh, right.
to the easement itself.
But that makes sense. Thank you for that. So I wasn't gonna try to fake that one because I had no idea.
So these have evolved over time, because I look at my easement for our
Oh,
land that
it's-
was done 20 years ago. It's about 6 pages shorter.
Yeah, I was gonna bring an example of one of my first ones in 2000, and it was about eight or 9 pages. And the reason why they got so long is unintended consequences of what we did. Either it was too restrictive or too lenient,
Yeah.
and the interpretation was all over the place. So, what's the example? Said no, no wheeled vehicles. And there's this poor mother with a stroller carrying her baby for the 2-mile trail because she thought she couldn't have a wheeled vehicle. Like, well, we didn't mean that. We meant no motorized wheeled vehicles. Well, I had a landowner who, in his 70s, came down with cancer and lived another 10 years into his 80s, and he wanted to use his, what do you call those little
ATV.
ATVs or all-terrain vehicles
Yeah.
around his property? Yes, you can do that. It wasn't rutting the property. He knew when not to go out there in the mud season and whatnot. So that's why they've gotten longer and longer, and it's it drives me nuts because every few years I have to edit mine. So
That leads me to the question I was gonna say to the end.
no, during is fine.
What is the legality or legal standing to update already signed leases?
Oh, that is a high bar, and I would not suggest it.
Once it's recorded.
Yeah, amendments is a bad word unless you're improving and increasing the protection.
What about at the point of transfer between them?
No, it transfers as is.
So
Yeah,
that first amendment is only 4 pages,
that stays like that.
And,
Yeah.
and Anna, is that because, as I understand it, these are governed by the charitable division of the Attorney
DOJ,
General? So
yeah.
any
Charitable Trust Division, they have a very,
modification would have to be approved by the Attorney General
Right.
of the state.
and they,
So
yes,
That's quite difficult, and you have to prove that it's,
Yeah.
and it's, like you just said, improving the easement
right.
and not diminishing it.
Correct.
For the purposes.
And there are tiers. They have somewhere, oh, this is a small modification. It actually makes it better. Okay, and then there's a, I don't know, and then there's third. Nope, don't even ask us. We're not going there. Did you have a question? Okay, but yeah,
Comment.
Go ahead.
Comment was, I guess, whichever the landowner to change it for whoever's holding the easement. You said it was easy, but,
easy. No, not,
well,
what was easy?
in terms of, if we're talking about my comment was just, it was for the party that was holding the easement, it seemed like more, easier process for that, than it would be for the landowner.
Well, any amendment, even if, whether it was initiated by the landowner saying, hey, Selt, can we do this? Or Selt saying, Mr. Landowner, I think you should do this, would not be, it's not easy. They both have to be in agreement, and it still has to go through that process. And the only time, I think I've done one amendment, and it was because the town hadn't actually walked the property. I've never heard about this. Usually the property's walked, graded, you rank it, and there was a huge boulder, like a, what do you call those radicals that fall from icebergs? And it was right on some line or some trail, and we had to move the trail around, and they're like, no digging, and so we had to get permission for that. But that was probably 2002. It wasn't as onerous as it is now, so it was done. But and usually the land trust will not or the easement holder will not initiate an amendment. But, yeah, it's a very, very high bar, and if it's to aim to increase the protection, then usually it's allowable. Hold harmless, what is that section? Oh, you know this. Just you can't, the easement holder's not liable for anything on the property unless you caused it or something, I don't know. No merger, so this is funny, in the older easements, it used to be called, the section was called merger. So it's like, oh, you can merge the easement, the development rights with the property again, and then no, this is no merger. It basically means extinguished development rights cannot be merged back with the property, even if, I had a landowner I worked with for years, and when she passed, she left the land to the town, and the town held the primary easement, primary position. So, but it doesn't merge, even though you own the land and the easement. So I think we ended up granting it to the local land trust. But yeah, so you can't merge those two. You can't put it back together. Governing law, someone might live in another state, or Snowbird lives down in Florida, and they think, their attorney down there might think their laws apply. No, you have to state what state you're working in. Additional easement, yeah, so that can be done to add or strengthen an easement. I had a property in Dover that had a water protection easement from the city of Portsmouth, because their Madbury Reservoir is their water supply, and this was right along the Madbury-Dover line. And they're like, oh, it's already protected. But I read it, and it was not that strong. So the landowner decided to conserve her entire property, and that just lays right over the existing water protection easement.
And I've seen an example where there's been an exclusion, a lot, the easement allows for a lot to be taken out of the easement for like, almost for any purpose, but a lot of times it's for a child or someone that might want to live on the property, and this landowner decided they didn't want that anymore, it wasn't
Right.
being used, and they wanted to extinguish the
Yep.
option for another lot
Yes.
that the
Yeah.
easement allowed.
You're absolutely correct.
And
Yeah.
so,
We did that. We did
Yeah.
that. We inherited one that had not only a motorized vehicle for someone for his life, but also a lot for a child. And we gave up the lot and turned it in, made it
Oh,
a
good. Yeah.
conservation. So
Yeah.
there were
I've
changes,
seen
yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've seen that as well,
Yeah.
where some easements actually sunset that option to have that lot granted to a family member. Others,
But Dexter, I think if that answers your question, I mean, if it's improving, it's not as much the landowner or the easement holder. I think if it's improving the purpose of the easement, that's
easier.
to get done, versus it being one party or the other. If it's helping the purposes that are established, which normally would be conservation, wildlife, et cetera, and if developing a house obviously would make that worse, extinguishing that right improves the easement, and that's easier. Still a whole legal process with the state,
Yeah.
but
It's strictly voluntary.
yeah,
Right, right.
yes. No,
No.
no. It'd be like Becky, the landowner wants to make sure that
Yeah.
the next person doesn't do it, and they want to get rid of that from the easement.
Right. Good question. Discretionary consent. Now, this is an interesting section. Not all land trusts or easement holders use this language. It basically, because we can't account for every little thing in the future. We thought of everything, we didn't. And this is very helpful when some weird little thing pops up and you want to allow it. So it's not specifically outlined in the deed, but it says, if this comes up, this is a process to review this request. And when I was at Stratford Rivers Conservancy, some of the newer easements had it, and 4 out of 5 times, the board voted no because of it. So it was a tough process also. Other times it's like, oh, that's fine. But it outlines the process of how to do it, discretionary consent. So at the discretion of the easement holder, the landowner can ask, can I do this? And it's not an amendment, it's just, am I gonna allow this? So, for example, the gentleman with cancer. brought it to the lands committee, they're like, of course we can do that. It made total sense. So those are the sections. I was supposed to have, you told me 15 minutes, and I probably went over.
We had a half hour.
Oh, you,
Sorry.
oh, okay,
Sorry.
all
I
right.
said that I misspoken, so.
So, and like I said, that easement deed, how long is this one? 30, 27?
And I didn't I have copies if anyone wants a
If you
copy of.
want to fall asleep and can't. the,
27.
27 pages. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, this is their template. This is their template. The town might have a different one. This is the Southeast Land Trust template currently. Some things can be negotiated, others, they cannot. And if they cannot, then maybe a deed restriction is for you. It may be a permanent conservation easement deed isn't the tool to protect the property, but it's the only way to legally do it forever.
And maybe people are watching that are interested. We do have brochures conserving your land
That's a great
from
book.
the New Hampshire Land Trust Coalition that you could contact us. Protecting Your Legacy from UNH Cooperative Extension is another excellent publication that goes through the basics of putting it in a trust versus an easement versus other different things. So we do have a lot of materials if anyone listening would like a copy of anything. We did have a question come up at our last meeting. Agricultural easement versus forestry easement. Is there big differences, or was there in the past? Because when I see most easements, it allows agriculture and forestry. Can you talk about
Yes.
like, different kinds of easements?
So in the past and in current easements that I work with, they allow forestry activities and agricultural activities. When you have an agricultural easement per se, like this is an agricultural easement, it's usually because you're working with the U.S. Department of Agriculture under their ALE program, the Agricultural Land Easement Program. Like they want everyone to know, we are giving you money because we want you to farm your property. Or it contains prime farmland soils. Now, even the federal government's USDA ALE easement deeds don't mandate farming. They can't force, if you're 100 years old and you can't farm anymore, they're not going to force you. But it leaves the property available for farming for another generation or another landowner. So, like, I noticed this one said, oh no, this one didn't say. Some of them say agricultural easement, because that's the main goal of the funder. But most of them, all the easements I've worked with allow both. Did you have a question?
No, just a comment that one of the easements we just closed on in December is an agricultural easement, and there are clauses in there. That easement standard is accepted by the state of New Hampshire and has been accepted by the town of Brentwood. It allows for agritourism and retail activities. You could do events, you could host races, you can sell products, you can do all kinds of things. That's very different than just agriculture.
Yes, it is, and it's very new.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the option to purchase at the
Yes.
agricultural value.
Yes.
Correct.
So
Right.
the farmer, yes, yes.
Yeah. That is an exciting new tool, because one of the deterrents is the price. Yeah, it always takes New Hampshire a little longer.
So
But
it
I
is very specific.
The OPAB is yes. But I think to be clear, and Bruce, you could help me with this from the planning board, if the town regulations, even if an easement allows it, if the town regulations don't, the town regulations would supersede whatever language would be in the easement.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So it does. So if the state
Why is
law,
Why would that be?
Hmm.
years, but the state law is
Right.
But is it state law for agritourism? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes, statute and
Yeah.
definition.
Yep.
Right, and
what
not,
does it provide? Well, just speaking to the rights you have as a property owner,
Joe, you might know better, yeah.
You can farm. And you can apply for grants.
Was it the FRPP, the Farm and
Yeah,
Ranch Land Protection
FRPP,
Program?
Farm and Ranch Land Protection.
That. Yep. So you, yeah, some agricultural easements do not allow it, especially if it's, so that, you have an FRPP easement and you're allowed to do it? Oh, okay, got it. Some of them, they do not allow agritourism and they do not include it. Some deeds do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard for farms to do this
right,
just on agriculture.
right. That's,
See all around, you see farms that have a lot of other things going on, and they need that.
right. Yeah, that,
Does it have to specifically say it's included, or is it inferred?
it has to say it's included.
So agritourism, it has to be included.
And if you, yeah, and sometimes land trusts or towns that I've worked with give their own definition, because the state definition might change over time, and you're like, oh, now you can have a circus or whatever, you know.
I think what comes to mind is having a movie.
Yes.
Is if it's inferred, then we should be mindful of that and look for, but if it must be, does it have to be stated in there that agriculture is allowed?
Yes. Has to say if it, right, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I was wondering if someone with an old easement like that, you can't do any commercial or industrial activities. Can't host weddings because that's commercial and that's not agriculture. Well, and how are people supposed to make any money just selling pumpkins? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right, there, yes, and running that up the flagpole at the DOJ would be your lesson in if it'll go through or not.
Again, another hypothetical, but let's say I want to start having visitors rock shows. 'Cause I have, I have a forestry, so let's say I want to start having laser rock shows in my backyard. I can have porta potties, I have parks. Is that planning board?
Yes.
Or is it an easement?
But if, so say there's no easement, would that, would you have to go to the planning board to do that in your backyard? Okay. You know,
It's never really. It's become a business.
Yeah.
If you're doing your own little private parties, then probably not.
I'm just taking it.
oh, okay.
Or sponsorships.
Well, now you're
Now
starting to
you're,
cross the line.
yeah, I'm not sure what the planning board
No, I'm just
requirements
curious
are.
about the agriculture piece. I'm sorry, I went off.
It's a huge issue. Pardon? Okay. so far. It's been coming up a lot, and, like in Dover, we're rehashing that as we speak, kind of allowing it, because I've seen farmers having to sell, they just can't afford it, can't make a living, but with some caveats, or like, come to us before you start X, Y, Z, but a little more lenient and open to the idea, rather than, nope, can't do it. That just doesn't seem very fair. Right. Yeah. Yes, it's Stratford Rivers Conservancy, and I'm sure Selt knows about the property now. They wanted to have a music festival every year. And I missed it the first year, being the volunteer monitor. I didn't even know it happened. The second year, like, what? Third year, we had to shut it down. And we tried to negotiate and whatnot, but no, that wasn't an allowed thing. Lots of campers and porta potties, and it was definitely not in compliance with the purposes of the easement, shall we say. So that was kind of a clear issue. I did have other,
I have a question on discretionary consent.
yeah,
You put in there that have a motorized vehicle. Does it have to be specific motorized vehicle? They go to height.
oh, okay, so that would be, yeah, you're right, two different things. In the allowed uses section, you would say what kind of motorized vehicles would or would not be allowed. You have to be pretty specific, but as I said, sometimes that specificity backfires. What do you call it? Discretionary consent, what page is that on? I had it on my notes. I think it's at the very end. That doesn't specify anything about motorized vehicles, or how does it read?
So I think the bigger question is, let's say I put in that I want to ride my tractor and then I break my hip and I can't get on my tractor anymore. But now I can get on a four-wheeler. Four-wheeler's not going to take it. So if I came to the discretionary thing and said, you know, and what if they said, no, because it's only tractor? Can you go to like a third party to arbitrate it, you know? Because, you know,
You'd yeah,
Some
you would
people-
have to, but
and the thing is, people change. You get a whole new group on there that, you know, they're not even gonna think of it.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
yeah,
And stuff.
I would negotiate that before drafting the easement. All those weird questions that you have.
That's a lot.
It is.
Hey, you know,
Yeah, that was for sure. I wanted to read that discretionary consent, so, because it's not specific to your example, but it says the grantor and grantee recognize and agree that natural conditions, landscapes, consistent uses, and technologies change over time. And unforeseen or changed circumstances could arise, which some proposed activities may require the discretionary consent of the grantor as further described below. And they say how you go about it. It has to be consistent and not detrimental to the purposes, not impair the conservation values, not affect the qualification of this easement for 170H IRS Section 1. So if you hadn't put in that allowed uses section, my motorized vehicle, in case I break my hip in 10 years, that would be a discretionary consent question. And like I said, I've had that before, and the board was like, yeah, it's totally fine. But I don't know everybody else's board and vote, and like you said, there's turnover. But it's hard to include everything. Right.
That's where we want to keep a good relationship with your easement holder.
Yes,
Because that's what,
Yeah.
I mean, and I think most
and the easement holders
people
with
have
their
been
landowners,
fairly
yeah.
reasonable that if the case you're describing seems very reasonable, it would be hard for me to see someone, for the owner, to be able to ride on their property
Yeah.
seems reasonable, again, unless you have one of these grants that kind of strictly prohibit it, but for forestry and all that, it's totally
Right.
allowed, agriculture is allowed, so like tractors and all that is, I think, a given.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. The funder, the grantor, not the easement holder, but they kind of dictate some of the allowed uses or restrictions.
Who does?
The funders, so you get money from the USDA farm, you have to have agricultural soils. You get money from New Hampshire Fish and Game. They're probably going to require you to allow fishing or gaming.
Drinking water.
Drinking
land
water
trust
supply,
fund allows
right. Yeah, they
anyone
want you to
to put a
protect the
water
drinking
supply
water
in.
supply and not have your pigs pen over there by the, where the water, where the water is. So, yeah,
So
there's,
if you get funds from different, say, 5 different ones, and they had 5 different, so it'd be like 5 against 1. Do you understand what I'm saying? Oh, 4 say you can do it, but 1 says you can't do it because of the water.
we hashed that out before the easement deed is signed. I'm working on right now with 4 funders, and the deed's getting longer and longer. Yeah, to avoid that exact, but I know all the parties, so, but yeah, you bring up very good points. But in the end, to me, the landowner is king or queen, and then the easement holders are there to serve the property and make sure we're all making sure the natural resource values are protected forever. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome. Sorry, went over 20 minutes.
I just have a question for John.
Mm.
Oftentimes when I've asked who sells it in one land, people in town would say, hey, we can do that on our own. We can sell it. But we all know the board's changed. That to me is one of the smartest investments that town funds is to incorporate that easy money into
Yes.
itself.
I do it on online, go run to volunteer.
We have great volunteers here.
Yep, you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm getting a
Yes.
sign from Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your.
Thank you. Thanks for
Welcome.
coming.
Have a great evening.
Good seeing you, Joni. Thanks.
Talk to you.
And by the way, if anyone would like a slice of pizza, cold pizza, or chocolate, we have some food here.
Yes,
Unless you need me for the open space side, I think it's all covered.
Thank you, Robin.
there you go.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. Have your, All right, next.
And just for everyone who doesn't know or didn't see, we did send out postcards. And thank you, Robin, for getting it in the newsletter. She wrote it. But we did send out some postcards to people in town as well.
All right.
So it didn't work.
Next on the agenda is reimbursements. I have 3 reimbursements. One for Becky for $39.25. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Some was just general office supplies, like copy paper, copying so much at home, and folders. The second was to buy the spines so that it can take all of those reports that we've had made and printed and spiral bind them so we have them for the file in good order.
Nice.
So that was the other purchase.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And then Rob has 2, one for the cards that that were mailed out, and then postage.
Good they amount.
Oh, sorry about that. Postage, $18.72. And then the cards, mailing cards, $78.98.
And those go to Jillian so she can process them.
I'll make a motion to reimburse for
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Old business on the agenda, 6 hour. I think we're,
Yes, there's a copy of the letter after we discussed in July saying we had no objections to what they were doing. The letter was drafted and it was sent to the planning board, and so that's on file. We complied with that. So that's a copy of what was sent to the planning board with our decision.
next is Noonie Munger property update.
Yep. Yeah. Just a couple update on a couple of things with that. We are closing in on the date when we want to actually purchase this property, so two things are in the works. One, this board discussed having a retracement survey done because the markers were laid down in '87, and we wanted to be sure over time markers were in location. So I was asked to find someone to do the retracement. We contacted two agencies. One came through with a proposal, the other couldn't handle the job. In discussion with Northam, the group in Dover, Bob Stevens was very helpful in this. We decided we would like to go forward and have the first tasks done, which were the legal work to make sure the property was in the correct name, reviewing all the markers, finding them, replacing those that were missing. In preparation for that, which was done at the end of August, a crew of Andy LaRoche, Bob Stevens, and Bruce Stevens spent hours cutting shrubs and bushes to make sure that the monuments that were there, they could find as many that were in their place, so it would be easier and less expensive for Northam to do the work. So hours were spent. And Bruce, you went back another time to do more work, so cutting and clearing and marking things. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
That did
I
move.
think only by 3 feet. So, you know, we were just patient. One was broken.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And they reset that correct where the base
The
was.
only one that maybe more than but
They are finished.
they are.
Yeah. Which, yes. There is a marker underground. It was about 2 inches under the dirt. They found that and they've marked that. So, and there's actually a worksheet with all the notations on it. I can forward that to you. Okay, so you can, yeah. The fire, yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah, they found that it's a level with the ground, but it was under a couple inches of dirt over time. You know, time had gone by. Yeah. Yeah. So I will send this to you just for your information since you were involved in
What
that.
should we put there, though, do you think? Like, should we put a post in or something?
Well, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, I wonder if we should, I mean, my question is, I wonder if we should put in a post or a sign there or something.
Well, we did, but they actually do, you know, history, preparation, foundation, people like that. I think I did race the guy,
Yeah.
It was always something on the ground in the town.
Yeah.
That's one place that I could see some potential down
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
Because the owners have used that
Yeah.
additional.
And the backyards, it seems like both houses are using property that
Correct.
belong to the
Well, yeah,
So this becomes squatters.
because otherwise it could be some sort of claim by adverse possession, if that doesn't already exist.
No, I think it does, people in the southeast corner, no.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
You're able to request the rest of the lot, they bought the property. And they put it in 4 acres. And they said, hey, you have no idea what our limit is. It's 3 acres off the road. And about half of that is actually town property. And they're great people. But they do some shooting, and they're big shooters. The problem with shooting, but they have some targets set up in the back lawn on the town property. There's no adequate backstop for force. So we have to make that portion of people in town that are walking, so every time the town land, even more than where the boundary line is, somebody needs to say to them, hey, you're shooting some heavy like 5.56 ammunition, you need to cover yourself. And firing to the park, are you or you're you know, so we get some metal targets above that. Well, this is trying to be a target. You're shooting almost in the target. And because of the topography there, that exposes the town land going to your land cost about a third of what it costs to come from. Maybe it's something where the chief of police goes over and speaks to them. I wouldn't mind saying that. It seems like something you should be more formally addressed. What you're doing, it's not just a fire once in a while, but repeated fire, that could be very dangerous.
I think on a bigger, but a little slightly higher level, your point is well taken, is we talked at the last meeting about maybe having a little subgroup, because we want to figure out a management plan for the whole parcel that the town is taking over and how it should be maintained, cut, how do we add trails or parking for the bigger, property your family donated plus the other parcel the town owns. So, and addressing, we talked about giving the landowners a copy of the survey, in a, I don't know how formally, but just to make sure they are aware now there's big orange stakes in their backyards. Exactly. So, yeah, so I think that's part of what
Yeah.
we've discussed, and maybe we'll see if anyone wants to volunteer, however you.
Yeah.
And Paul, certainly interested in your thoughts of how we should move forward too.
Yeah, no, well, hearing some of this, I think that certainly makes sense. I think you do want to put the brothers on notice, especially utilizing this property. There's potential for people to be
Yeah.
harmed. So, yeah.
I mean, we don't own it now for a couple months probably until it closes, so we have a little bit of time
Yeah,
to,
or less.
or less.
Yep.
I mean, the money is there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have the deed right up on my computer screen. Becky gave me something earlier that was like.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did put it in editable form, so.
Oh, yes, I don't do the kind of red line correcting of texts and drafts. I don't have that technology, so I had to handwrite my suggestions.
But you do now, because I just
Oh, you
forwarded
did?
it to
Oh,
you.
good. Oh, let me finish up on the survey, the retracement survey. So they did send us the invoice, and they sent us the worksheet that shows all the points. They did have to place 3 pins that were missing on the South Road. They straightened how one was angled, and they found the one by the house that had the fire. They have marked all of it, so I will send that to anyone who's interested. The print is very small. That wasn't included in their original proposal, but they provided that. So the original proposal was $7,300, came in with a 10% discount at $6,836 for the amount of work, the number of hours. 2-man crew went out, and their mileage, and the iron rods, and the wood stakes, and the plan. So I would like to go ahead and pay this because it was approved in advance that we were going to pursue it. So I just wanted to update you on the cost of that. And part of that will be reimbursed by the transaction grant that we applied for in one, so part of this money will come back to us.
Do we need a motion? I know it's been approved in advance. Why don't we make a motion to pay the bill just for the record and the source? to
Whatever
be-
your pleasure is.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to pay the appraisal bill in the amount stated.
Retracement.
Retracement
Not
survey?
appraisal, retracement.
Oh, sorry,
survey.
not appraisal,
Yeah,
survey.
retracement survey.
Retracement survey,
Yeah.
sorry. Second, we have,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
That was one thing on Munger, Noonie Munger. The second is just a couple of things. At the end of August, I contacted Jill Noonie and Bob Munger to update them where we were in the process. I told them that we had applied for and received bond funding, and that we were working on a warranty deed that they would review, and that we were also doing a retracement survey so that we could be sure the markers were in place for the property boundaries. And after we received that report and had the warranty deed ready to go, we would contact them to begin the closing process. So that's where we are with them. They were very happy to be updated. We had told them originally in our 2-3 meetings with them that we were looking at September, October for a closing because bond financing was involved. So I think we're right on schedule for what we told them. So they've been fully informed every step of the way. So I think they're okay with us. So that's where that is. So the warranty deed was the other piece besides the Northam. And town council, Andrea contacted town council to get a warranty deed drafted. Went through a couple of iterations and received one a couple of weeks ago that looked in pretty good order, but it's been proofed, and I had some questions that I relayed to Paul in my scratch, and which he has taken and put into the computer. So some of it was just typos, modest, minimal typos in the text. The last thing was, and I reviewed this with Anna, our consultant, was the paragraph referring to the purpose of this land. She suggested it could be strengthened so that it was more specific on the use of the land. So we've added some information. She thought funding source was important to mention, and that the votes by both conservation and select board were important to mention, and that we included perpetuity for conservation purposes by the Brentwood Conservation Commission. She did counsel me a few months ago that the more specific and detailed you make any document, the more you're likely to be hung up on something going extinct or a purpose changing. So to make it a little bit more general, to be inclusive rather than specific, that may eliminate things in the future. So I'd like to read to you, you've all read this, but this is what I suggested for the language. And if anyone would like a copy, I have some copies here. I think you have a copy. Open Space has a copy. Michelle, you do not have a copy. The language is in there. That was my email to you with the paragraph down here, which is the paragraph. Yep. Yes, and I think the deed version I was using is the same one that you had, was the most recent.
Authorization of the transfer, of this transfer was approved by vote of the Brentwood Select Board on February 18, 2025, by Brentwood Conservation Commission for April 9, 2025, using funds from the open space bond approved at the March 2022 town meeting. This land is granted and is to be managed and controlled in perpetuity for conservation purposes by the Brentwood Conservation Commission pursuant to RSA 46-8.
There were some questions at Open Space. Do we need to make the language what conservation purposes mean? Do we need to include things like hunting, recreation, fishing, public access? Anna had discouraged me from being that specific because we have talked in conservation about maybe linking it with Stevens or with the Split Rock, and we'd have to mirror their language. So, yes. Right, but if we ever merged with RCCD, we would have to mirror that language. So, Open Space discussed it, and we said, we'd come back to Paul to say, how specific should this be? I'm happy to call NHACC if we want another opinion from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, just for advice on this, or to leave as is.
Well, that's a good question. I wouldn't mind another, another council on it. I mean, I guess it really depends on how, specific we would want to be in terms of what we would permit or, as conservation. I mean, I don't think it's not necessary for the
Yeah.
conveyance,
Yeah.
but, if there are specific things that you want to see that are part of the conservation, then it doesn't hurt. But it's not necessary
For the
for the
conveyance.
conveyance itself.
So maybe it's in the plan that we develop for the parcel. Following up on the acquisition of this land for conservation purposes in perpetuity, we are designating the uses of this land based on the open space bond guidelines for wildlife, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the open space bond, which lays out some criteria pretty clearly, was sufficient versus trying to lay out
All this.
specific uses and then leave some out, and then you can't do that. And that even if we had a plan, one board can't
Change. yeah.
commit the next board from following it. So, in 50 years, who knows what conservation and recreation is going to look like. So,
It came up several years ago. People didn't get rid of their books and traffic. Obviously, if you're doing additional traffic, you're doing something that's something's happening in this property. Do that. It seems like that. I mean, to me, when you do that, that was very important for me to know it wasn't in the
Yeah.
That was different though, Bruce, because that was your private, that was your private.
It sounds like somebody here's gonna make a decision whether they're going to allow this or not allow. It's been traditionally, it's been a hunting area. I think the fishing part, I'm not denying that, it's very good.
What is the open space? I'm sorry.
You have
But
the
what is the open
warrant.
space criteria? Because this is pursuant to the open space. I mean, it's
Yeah.
different in the sense that it was your
Oh, right.
private,
I
private
think this group,
property.
I think
this group has.
it's a much bigger issue because it applies, whatever it applies to all the town lands, Bruce. So I don't think we should be making a decision on this one parcel. I think that's for the town to decide on all its town parcels. In my own opinion. Yeah. Yeah, because, well, I mean, I put part of that on there because I think there can be different uses for town parcels. I mean, not every parcel has to be available to every single recreational use. There might be some, like some towns have, you can mountain bike on these trails, but you can't hike on those trails. I mean, so I don't think it's that far out of this world to think that sometime in the future you might want to designate a parcel just for pedestrian use versus hunting or motorized vehicles or anything else. Well, every property has an historical use of everything.
So in the
Just to
bond, it does
answer yours.
specify,
So, yes,
yes.
so there's a lot of intro about how it could be issued and maturities. The purpose of the warrant article is to conserve parcels determined by the Conservation Commission to be of strategic conservation interest, to protect wildlife habitat and water resources while helping to maintain the town's rural character. Where practicable, such land would be made available for use of citizens of the town for recreation, in parentheses, i.e., hiking, biking, running, hunting, fishing, etc., within the laws of New Hampshire. Use restrictions may be imposed by the town, however, after purchase to comply
Yeah.
with grants,
Yeah.
easements, or sale of property rights.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it says uses can be applied after the purchase, is that what the language
It's
says?
saying that, yes, the town can still do whatever it wants after.
Okay,
And this does say that this is being purchased pursuant to.
Yeah, so that's why I
Yes.
felt that, given that it said all that, and that this lays out in a broad stroke, wildlife habitat, water resources, recreation, that would kind of preclude a town office building or,
yeah, Yeah.
things like that, without getting into, listing this again or
Yeah.
trying to be inclusive.
Yeah. So it refers back to the bond. Okay.
So I thought that
The
was a
warrant.
good addition
Yeah.
that you put in, Becky,
Yeah.
and, I don't think it needs to be more specific, but I'm not an attorney. Can you get up to the microphone? That was Bruce saying, I think I was right.
I think you were right.
So, Becky, do you need anything from us? I mean, I think we're already
No,
empowered
so it
the
goes
select
now
board
to,
to,
if we approve this language, then it goes to town council for the other modest changes we're talking about, the correction of the words, the change, there'll be one other change I didn't mention is that I cannot sign this because tonight is my last night as chair. So whoever's going to pick up this mantle will be the authorized signatory on behalf of the chair.
do we need
We
the
could just leave
conservation
On behalf of the
commission?
conservation.
Why do we need the conservation?
It's part of the agreement. I
Take it
signed for
off.
Fuller.
Anyways, I don't think we need to approve the language. I think, the select
We're set,
board
okay.
and everyone, the town council, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
No,
so
I-
I've sent
none of
this
us have-
back to you just to,
Okay,
for
so I'll
another,
look at
for
it,
another edit.
and then it can go to town
And then
council.
if-
Okay,
And then you can send it to council, get the blessing there.
okay, and then
And I
start
think-
working on
And then
the
I think we'll be
closing,
ready to go.
and work on the closing, okay. And that's what I told Jill and Bob, is that after we had the deed draft and the Northam report, we get back in touch with them, and their legal counsel should review it, and then we'd set up a closing based on their convenience. Someone said we don't need a HUD statement for this?
Morgan.
Okay.
Laura Spector Morgan
And there
said,
were
yeah.
two other forms that Barbara Richter at NHAC recommended, something to the New Hampshire Department of Revenue, just two standard forms. I'll get those so you can see that. And ask Laura, or you could ask Laura.
I suspect it's probably just the DRA forms that
Could be.
speak to change of ownership.
Okay, okay.
I'm assuming.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to turn it over to Paul to work with town council after I look at it in the morning.
Doesn't have to be the morning, but
Okay,
when you get to it.
okay. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you, all of you, for this. And Anna was very helpful in this whole process with Noonie Monk. She really was.
And thank you for
Yeah.
spearheading the whole
Yeah.
thing yourself, countless hours.
Yes. Oh, loved it. I really did. It was interesting. Okay, so that's it for Noonie Munger. Noonie Munger. Thank you, Becky. You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is Fish and Game Small Grants Program update. I don't think we have really anything to talk about, because
No.
that'll be next year that we,
Yeah, and once this property is
Once this-
purchased, then we'll
Yep.
look at it.
Open space, next article, that would have been Robin, but she left, so.
Open Space Committee.
Yeah, in terms of the next article to go into the
Oh, next article,
Um,
yeah.
Brentwood
Which,
newsletter.
well, I don't know if it was the next newsletter, but we talked about having article on the Noonie Munger property.
On the
I don't know
Noonie
if
Munger.
that- Whenever after that
Yeah.
Right,
closes.
I
Yeah.
don't- Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not gonna happen for,
It
Couple months.
could be November, December for that article.
right.
Yeah, a feature on the acquisition of this property, so something for November. We've done bird migration, insects, all kinds of things.
Great.
So I can post out, we can post to Robin as an article topic she might like to include. She's been the writer for most of them.
New business. Let's see, I'm gonna do monitoring first. Monitoring letters were sent out to landowners. Monday, I've heard back from 5 who do wanna accompany whoever monitors. So I think what I'm looking for is to see who is interested in helping with the monitoring.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
help you with monitoring.
Okay. All right. Tell me which ones. Yeah. Schmalzer.
Shelter.
Oh, Cynthia Tolbert. Okay.
If you want me to go on ours with Bill, I will. Okay. Representing
If you're
conservation.
around.
Okay.
And
Wait, you're gonna monitor?
Jeff,
your own
you wanted to go?
Yeah, I can,
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're gonna do Becky's? Okay, and so you'll do a couple.
yeah, just have to pick.
Yeah.
I can do a couple.
Okay.
Maybe Chris, our new alternate, would be interested in learning the process too.
Yeah, I can. Well, he's not gonna be back.
Yeah, Patrick is back.
River cruise of some type, being the historian on the,
On the river, yeah, on the coastal cruise.
okay. There is a program on invasive plants coming up in October 21st at the library at 7 p.m. So that would be a very interesting thing if anybody's interested. I am always educating people on invasives. October 21st. I believe it's a Tuesday.
There are actually some brochures on invasive plants in that box on top of our file cabinet that I put all the brochures in, that the state produces. That's like a 6-page leaflet. That's really nice. So there are some copies in there. We could even hand out here.
Did you also see that the, I think it's, that the gardening group is doing the pollinators pathway next Tuesday at the library?
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I
Pollinators
didn't know that.
Pathways
Oh.
presentation at the library on the
Didn't know that
16th
either.
at 7 o'clock. Did I put it in my calendar right? Yeah.
Let's see, public events. I know that Emma is working on that passport program and Steph is helping her. So she's not here, so I don't know where she's at with it. We can touch base with her and see if she can give an update next meeting, because I'd like to see where that's at. I'm gonna put election of new chair at the end.
Couple
The
more events.
Budget.
Couple
for-
more, just,
Oh, yes, events.
the 7th annual Fall River Paddle. It's coming up on the Exeter River, sponsored by Esserlac, Concom. If anyone from here would like to volunteer, they look for people at the beginning to help people get launched. At the end, to pull the boats out, there's a free barbecue. There are, I think in advance, you can get, it says bring your own boat. I think the town has some boats if you really want one, and there's information on how to register. That is September 20th, 10 a.m. at Rowell Road by the stairs to put your boat in. And then can I mention one other thing? And then we have some bigger things to do. I know, and it's getting late. There's the New Hampshire Volunteer River Assessment Program. The town is participating. Eric Tur has set it up with 5 spots. If anyone would like to get trained, they go out. You go several times a year at different spots in town. The equipment, they have the equipment from New Hampshire DES, and so that program's been going on. If anyone's interested in monitoring water quality, we could get you more information on how to volunteer for that.
And lastly, for events, save the date for NHACC annual meeting and conference. Saturday, November 1st, is Pembroke Academy.
Yep.
Pass it out.
Budgets are due when?
September 15th.
Okay.
So everything, are we on budget?
Yep, next item is budget.
I volunteered to work on the budget. And I've handed out a report that I received as of middle, late August. Conservation Commission is the top half. So again, because of the budget cap that was implemented recently, the Budget Committee has accelerated the entire process to be able to account for that. And so they're asking for our budgets by September 15th, which is, this is the last meeting for us to talk about it. So what we're looking at here is the column on the left is the current budget that totals $12,704. What we spent year to date, the $45.97. We do have some encumbrances from last year.
3,000.
Sounds like 3,000 towards our consultant. What I'm proposing is to use the exact same budget as for next year.
All of our expenses are accounted for the year. Does that look right to you?
I've asked for information so I can see how much has been taken from the Conservation Fund, which I'm still waiting for. And I do keep receipts that I send, so I will go over that to make sure. And we also talked in open space a little bit about what we're anticipating we're going to be paying before the end of the year. We still have to get from bond council. We're going to have, we've committed to Emma some money for the project for the passports. We have membership dues that are due, so we've got a list of what anticipated payments will go out to see what percentage we'll pay down. So yes, I'm going to check those figures.
But it sounds like we're gonna have enough to
Yes.
basically spend
Yes.
our budget.
Yes.
And then we're gonna go over into the conservation
Yes.
fund. And the conservation, so we can talk about the conservation fund next. And your question is, are our actual expenditures? Okay. And Becky, being most familiar, I mean, do you feel that our current budget for this year would be applicable to next year as well, or do you changes?
I don't foresee, we have the cushion of the Conservation Fund should unanticipated expenditures or something else come up, but for regular operating procedures, I think we're fine. Anna's contract runs through October 31, so you'll have to negotiate
Yeah.
if you want to continue with that, if she's going to be helping us with something. I have a copy of the signed contract for whoever takes this on to work on that.
Okay. And then the conservation fund is a whole nother beast, which
Yes.
I know there's been discussion of whose budget does replenishment of the conservation fund come from. And we don't know currently how much has been used from it.
I would think we haven't used more than 5, maybe 6 from the Conservation Fund, but I want to verify that.
Okay. So where were we expecting, we were under this agreement where it's maintained at 75,000. Where in the budget do you think that money comes from? I've heard our budget, the select board budget.
I don't know where that comes from, because it was replenished, if the conservation fund was used, somehow it was replenished before my time. Didn't have to do that last year or the year before when I took over in October, so I don't know that history.
So from my time, which ended in 2020-ish, it used to come from our budget, from the Conservation Commission budget.
I didn't know that. I don't know.
Okay.
We didn't use conservation fund in 23 or 24. And that, I just came on in 23, so I don't know.
Okay. So,
I thought it came from the general fund. I thought it was,
I wasn't familiar with what
Yeah.
happened after I left
Yeah.
the commission, so I don't know what transpired or how it was used.
it may
so-
not have been used in 21 and 22. Because there wasn't much going on in 21 and 22.
So we either could just skip it for this year.
Is there some replenishment that would need to occur?
It sounds like
Might
5 to
be.
6,000.
Possibly.
I think it's at 70 or so.
It might be. I want to
Well-
go back and check that. I know I applied part of the appraisal and maybe part of the phase 1 to conservation fund, because I wasn't sure how much we'd spend with Anna or other pieces. I know we have bond council. We absorbed bond council last year, which was 7,500, but my estimate from bond council this year is 6,000. So if we add up what we anticipate, that's the figure I need to provide.
And then there's funds that we just allocated to for the previous.
Yes, we are going to have revenue from the Fuller leftover money, and we're going to have the transaction grant reimburse us. So it may even out. It may just even out. Because we have Fuller and that's 8,000, and we have the transaction grant, which is 13,000. So we may just be fine, but let me put those figures together.
I thought there was some source, can't recall, but I thought there was some sharing of, some tax.
Yeah, so the
revenue sources.
original origin of this was the town had passed the warrant to give 100% of the land use change tax to the conservation fund. Back in the early 2000s, when the Conservation Commission was going for the open space bond, an agreement was made with the select board, who said, we'll only endorse the open space bond if you give up the land use change tax, because it was growing, I think, to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're like, well, you can't get both. And I know in certain recent years, the land use change tax was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. When Three Ponds was converted, when Mill Road was converted, these were large 10% of market value going into these funds. So the agreement was
Bless you.
the 75,000 would be like working capital for the conservation fund. So when we have a project that needs to pay for an appraisal, instead of budgeting a lot of money each year for things that may or may not happen, we would have this revolving, I don't want to use that word, a fund that the select board, and we reconfirm that in the minutes with the select board. And of course, one select board can't commit the next select board, et cetera. But we try not to use it and use our own budget first, but sometimes we do go into it. So I think if that's what you're thinking about, the original thinking was it was from the land use change tax, but there's no formal grabbing from the land use change tax each year to replenish it.
Doesn't seem to be.
No, I mean,
Right.
it's just fungible money anyways, whether the land use change tax goes into the general fund and then the general fund puts it here.
It seems, transparency purposes, no issue of having it seems like the final budgets are acted on in December, that there ought to be a line item in the budget for replenishment.
Yeah.
Because the general fund really isn't the source for all these catch-all things.
Yeah.
So for the taxpayers, your budget committee, that would just seem to be a
Yeah.
nonsensical line
Yeah.
item.
So this last
But
line
does
in
it-
our
but does
budget,
it need to be?
annual appropriation, was what historically was used for the conservation fund. An annual I mean, none of these lines actually were very descriptive for a long
Yes.
time.
Yes.
That's what we used historically, and I've shared some old budgets with Becky, but again, it got changed over the years. Everyone
Yeah.
did it a little differently. Maybe we didn't use it for 5 years, so it
Yeah.
got lost.
But it's just sitting there, and it sounds like it's been sitting there for a while, so does it really need to be
What's sitting there?
a fund?
The conservation fund. It's necessary because if something comes up in the year that you haven't anticipated, suppose a landowner comes through and says, yeah, we really want, we want to conserve this land, but we have to do an appraisal, environmental one, or whatever,
Oh, I
and it's not
understand.
in the budget, we need that resource.
I understand, but query at that level?
Yeah, I mean, what we've used it in the past for is especially like a landowner wants to donate their property, and the expenses could be $25,000-$30,000 all in for closing, and this would allow us to use it versus spending $10,000 for a bond. I mean, a lot of years we didn't have a bond. The bond hasn't been around for 10 or 15 years until recently. So we would use it as that resource as well. And again, the source was the land use change tax, which the town has had
Yeah.
million.
And the conservation fund can also be used by commissions to accept donations for conservation purposes. You would have to have different accounts within the conservation fund, but it's a way to take donations that can be used by conservation.
So the choice would be, maybe we could put in a holding spot like 5,000. The issue I think will turn out to be, though, then we're raising our budget by 40%.
Yeah.
Which is gonna happen on all these, and when we use the open space bond, the same thing's gonna happen. So it's gonna be a challenge unless somebody else offsets it somewhere. So, I mean, maybe what we should do is just put in the 5,000 and see what happens in the process.
It's not gonna happen.
Well, then it's never gonna happen, right? How's it
Well,
ever
not
gonna
necessarily.
happen?
Yeah, not necessarily.
And I mean, like Becky's saying, that some of that money's gonna come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how are we ever gonna get money back in there?
Well, I mean, you think about the cap, but that amount's gonna change year to year, so that, that's how much there, and that's gonna take revenues and everything else, and that budget's gonna keep growing, and that amount of money is available, so it will be there. So it's
Yeah.
not like you're only ever gonna have this much money.
No, and like, for instance, this year, $500,000, the open space bond got paid off entirely, and we're only replacing it with half, the
Yeah,
2.25.
225, yeah.
So in theory, there's an excess.
But yeah.
So I mean, again, I don't know why we can't apply it, and then, like you said, there's gonna be changes in other parts of the budget going on. Maybe it will only be less than 4% when everything is submitted.
Talking about the entire budget?
Yeah.
Or I know, but you're talking about then putting something in that's gonna vary at 40%?
$5,000 on a
I
$5 million budget.
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative, what you're saying is then you're never gonna replenish our funding.
Well,
under the
no, I
budget
mean,
cap.
I don't know what a future board, would do, but I certainly, if you got to a point where the money was needed, then I would imagine that, there would be a compelling reason to do so. But like where it presently stands at, whether it's $70,000 or $75,000, I don't know what the compelling reason to do so is at this point in time.
Well, just because the further and further every year it's not replenished, it's never gonna get replenished, and then
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know
Well,
that. I just know where it
it's
presently.
highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then, I mean, to add on to this, then we have the open space bond, which we want to issue as well, potentially next year. Because we have a property which, I mean, it's getting late, but we're at the point of asking the commission for an appraisal, to pay for an appraisal. So now we might have another, we don't really know what the value could be, but it could be anywhere from maybe 250 to 500,000 in new bonds issued next year. And we don't have any bonds maturing next year. So now that's gonna be potentially, if it closes, payments,
Talking about from the existing open space.
Yeah,
yeah.
yes.
But as I understand it,
It
that,
doesn't affect the 4%.
I believe it does.
I thought it didn't.
Well, I don't know why it wouldn't.
Why it wouldn't either.
I'd have to go back, but I thought I had a conversation with Jim that it would not count
No, he
against the
sent me a lot of
4%.
stuff saying
It would?
we need to include it.
Okay.
But I don't know if anyone actually knows.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, I think what, again, what we can decide, we need to submit something. So,
I would go with level funded.
I would agree, especially since we have that 8,000 gonna go back in.
Yeah.
is
To
it
the
going back in?
Conservation fund. Yeah.
I thought
select-
we applied that to the cost of the Munger Noonie.
Yeah, we're gonna apply that to the, we're gonna tally up all the, we're gonna tally up what we have left in our budget with the transaction grant and with the Fuller, and compare it to where we think we're gonna end, and then decide where the money goes. And that's an awkward way to say it, but I have to
Because I thought
tally
we
the
already
income.
spent that money on the transaction cost for the Munger Noonie property.
Yes, some of it hasn't come in yet to expend, like the bond council funds.
Gotta
So
get
I want to get all of those possible expenses against all of our revenue and see where the bottom line is on both. And then see where that money's gonna be, where the expenses are gonna be charged to, or what's gonna be replenished. And just another thing, I think maybe the conservation fund should be discussed, but not in a panic mode, saying we're gonna make a real change in that until we know what we really wanna do with the conservation fund. I think it's too important a resource down the road to not replenish it.
Agreed. So we have two things I think that I need to communicate, because Jim sent me all sorts of schedules on bonds and how much, what they're putting in this year for Noonie Munger, and what the other bond service schedules were, and I don't quite understand it, but he goes, the bond, to me, the Conservation Commission does not own the debt service budget, that's the TA's responsibility. So, what I think I'm hearing is we should have a motion to approve the budget going up 4%, the exact same? The exact same?
Oh.
And then we should also submit an indication that it's likely next year that we may have some amount of open space bond issued that's undetermined at this point. Maybe somewhere between 250 and, I don't know, 400,000. I mean, that's kind of what our range of
Yeah.
easements have been, right?
Yep.
I mean,
We just don't know at this point until we get an appraisal.
yeah,
We have,
so I don't know, again, how that fits in, or if we don't have room, then we just can't close on the property, I don't know.
Yep.
I guess we'll all learn.
I don't,
Probably, I don't think so, but I don't know. Probably not.
Yep.
So don't put anything. But I was just thinking again, because our bond matured, and we, kind of the idea that I always thought is as 2 million is coming off, you're putting on new ones, that's a wash, versus letting that go somewhere else and then not being able to get it back. I mean, I know that's probably not the right way to think about it exactly, but in this hat, sitting in this chair, that's the way I'm thinking about it.
It's a narrow hat there.
That's the only hat I wear.
I think it should be presented, and then it'd be up to the discussion of the group, right? I mean,
the
we're,
budget committee.
yeah, we're presenting what our understanding is, and they'll discuss it and provide information, right? I mean, you know,
Yeah, I don't know at this point what you're even referring to, so it sounds like it may even be premature. Right? I mean, it hasn't been brought to this board, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're ready to bring to the board to pay for a survey. I mean, a appraisal.
Appraisal. So if we stay
Yeah,
level
but I mean,
funded,
it kind of defeats the whole idea of having an open space bond that you could use and it's all pre-approved by the town by a 2/3 majority that now
you
it
can't
can't be
use it.
used.
It may. It may very well. That may be the case.
So I like Heather's suggestion. We should just say this is a potential scenario and see what the budget looks like. Maybe there's other bonds. I mean, there's a whole list of bonds that get paid off every year, you know, that get reduced. So maybe there's,
Yeah, but it didn't sound like there was one for 26.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Can't wait to see it.
I'm open to any motions people want to make so that we can move on.
So your question is, do we stay level funded or do we? And
Well-
with a note that there may be something coming along having to do with another property?
Well, the open space bond has never been in our budget.
Right,
That comes somewhere else. So
Right.
we could think of them as two separate. It's
Right.
just what do we
Right.
want to forward into the budget process for consideration? So why don't
personally,
we vote on our budget first and then
okay.
we can discuss.
Personally, I think our budget is probably adequate because we have the conservation fund if we need it. So I would go for level funding or the 4% increase, which would be $508.
Is this a motion that you're?
No, it's just my opinion. I can make it a motion, it can be, seconded or die.
What's the motion to make it level?
Level funded for 26.
I could support that.
Okay,
Have a motion?
so it sounds
You
like we
have a
have a
motion.
first and a
Okay.
second.
Who seconded?
Paul said he
Paul.
can support it.
I could.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
No, I'm okay with it. What about, and so should I submit anything for a bond? What are people's thoughts?
Yes, I think you should indicate that the intent of having a property ready in 2026.
And I recall that you did something, maybe it was for like the CIP or something. Didn't you showed me a
Yeah,
chart
I
sometime
did.
where you told the
capital
town that you
improvement,
thought we'd
yeah.
be spending X amount in bonds every year.
Yes, and it's through 2030. And I think the figure is something like possibly $323,000. That's coming out of my brain. I have
Each year or
each
something.
year for the 5 years. Yeah, to tally up to what we had left in the $3 million bond. Yeah.
So maybe we should go ahead with whatever we had submitted years ago. That was.
And it was an estimate. The planning board knew that it was an estimate because there was no way to predict what parcels would come forward in any given year. So it was just an even split.
Okay, so are people comfortable? I could either look at for that number or we could.
Yeah.
We have.
Is the capital improvement, is the capital budget, the capital improvement budget with the CIP on the website for the planning board? Okay, so the figure would,
It
Not
is,
that
but
that's
just,
anything.
well, it's a wish list.
The
in
plan.
a
yeah, it's a
sense.
wish list, it is.
Okay.
I know you want more than wishes,
No, I want to implement the town voters' desire to conserve space as voted on at town meeting.
I know, but then there have been votes since. So. They may not reconcile.
They will.
Yeah, 27,
5
27.
years.
We have through 27. That's right. Or two-thirds,
Well,
two-thirds, yeah.
no one's avoiding it.
First one.
No, but it has to fit within the cap. So, the budget committee would have to look at that.
Well, I think the way it's explained is warrant articles are not included in the cap, so that's it. So just by being completely, the bond payments on that note would also be behind.
That's what I think Jim was referring
Okay.
to.
Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Get a DRA.
Yep. Yep.
So the worst case is they could say no. I agree with Heather, let's put it in,
Yep.
and this will force the town to figure out how the treatment of the open space bond.
nope,
We don't? It doesn't have to go into the budget by September 15th? How about if I just submit it, and then whoever, once it's out of us,
Yep.
then the next people can decide how to treat anything they want to treat.
with a reading from
But
the
you're
DRA.
submitting something on a property that has it been presented to this board?
No.
This property?
No.
So you're just presenting something
I mean, we
that
can
has.
if we go into non-public first, because, our hope was to move forward with an appraisal. But that's the whole idea of, not having to wait a whole year if people, that was the whole idea of the open space bond. That pre-approval, not. I understand things have changed.
Does an easement have to be approved by the select board? I know a
Mhm.
purchase of property has to be
Yeah.
approved by the select
Yes,
board.
'cause
But
it's
an
a
easement
real
has to?
property that the
Okay.
town's accepting.
Okay, just asking. I think you just submit it with the potential that there may be one. I mean, the budget discussion goes on through to December. We may have another answer or more information by that time, but it's better to present it and then not come back in November and say, oh, by the way, this came up. I think it's better to do that in advance.
Totally fine with that.
Yep,
Yeah, because if
Yeah,
we
get
get
it out
shot
there.
down, then we gotta just stop all conversations with landowners or,
Or at least
Or-
tell them
or,
it's gonna take an extra year.
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, getting it out there. Yep. So the DRA.
Sounds like a motion.
Yes, it's a motion to
I would,
include it in your budget presentation as a potential acquisition that would come from the open space bond.
of maybe
Amount.
up to 400,000.
Yep, maybe, yep. That's right. That's
Well, the
right.
thing is, we're, 15 months away.
I don't understand that wonder. That's more than enough to take care of that survey and appraisal.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't see.
Well, just because if we wanted to,
Purchase of
yeah, it wouldn't be spent unless,
Purchasing the property. 75,000, I always understood it was for doing preliminary work.
well, mostly we would try and put that into the bond.
Well, okay.
Because then it would be spread out over 20 years instead of having to have 50,000 replenished every year for every project.
But if
So-
we're gonna put DOT in the law, you can use that 75,000 to pay for those.
Yeah.
appraisal and survey.
Yep.
Yeah. And in actuality, there's no actual cost until the bond is issued. And so it definitely wouldn't be for a full year at the worst, but it does give us the flexibility that, most landowners, want some semblance of a time frame or
Yeah.
something. And again, I agree this one may not be a big priority, but you don't know what changes and,
I still don't understand why. It seems like you have plenty of money to.
Yeah, but we just saw we can't replenish it. So the idea would be that that money would be bonded and replenished through the bond. when
Let's
that's-
say for this particular project.
Sure.
For cost of thinking appraisal, survey,
Environmental, right.
The phase 1.
So if we cover all of that. You want to build negotiators responsible, gave you that 5-year sunset.
Yeah, so how would we issue the bond? But it won't be in the budget. The bond.
Yeah,
Okay, that-
the bond payments though.
Debt service.
That's what I don't think we know an answer to yet.
You know,
It's gotta be in someone's budget.
Gotta pay the bond, right? There's a yearly cost to it.
correct, but then how did you do it this year or last year?
But we didn't have a 4% cap, we just did it.
But where did it come from? Did it come from the
It was,
general
it
fund?
was, there was an for this, Munger property, there was an allocation for it in the budget for 2025. There would be a, a bond for this.
Yeah, that's the area. I don't, it sounds like we voted for that.
Yeah, let's find out. I would,
Sounds like we should submit it, we could always either
Yeah.
withdraw it, or
Yeah.
if we find out that Bruce's point is right, it's not included in the 4%, then it's non-issue.
Yep.
It'll, won't be for the full year.
Yep. I think
but-
we present it. And say,
You could ask the budget committee chair, he's pretty knowledgeable.
I asked him a lot of things,
But, you could ask DRA.
Here's his answer. Is there a certain amount of my question, is there a certain amount of new open space bonds allocated each year, and how is the town accounting for that? Hi, Rob, I'm not sure I know the full answer. Here's what I do know. There's a budget group called debt service that lists appropriately under the town administrator owns the debt service budget. At least that's what Andrea told the budget committee. Here's what the worksheet looks like. No,
Yeah, yeah.
worksheet looking
Yeah.
like thing with a lot of lines on it. And numbers. Remember that these are costs associated with any bond payment that made in fiscal year 26. The TO will update the forecasted and principal interest payments for all of bonds. I shared this with the budget committee, another
Yep.
small type printed chart. To me, the Conservation Commission does not own the debt service for the town. That's the TA's responsibility. If you think there is another property that may be acquired, that will create an additional bond that will have payments in 26. I believe the Conservation Commission needs to document the expected cost. I know this may be difficult, but we have to do the best. If you think it's $300,000, then you would get a 15-year bond schedule estimate from the New Hampshire West Bond Bank and see what the first year payment would be and add it to the debt service line. Again, this only needs to be done. There's a cost payment in fiscal year 2026. Hope this helps.
So
Blah, blah, blah.
I think the answer is yes.
Submit it.
Submit it.
Well, submit it, but I think the answer is yes. At least as and I'm not saying that that's the right answer. I think you should, we should
Yeah.
get confirmation of it.
Yep.
But, I think the answer that I'm hearing from that response is yes, it's part of the budget. It's part of the debt service.
Okay, so I think we have a motion to include it, right?
Second?
Did we?
Becky made the motion.
I'll second it.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
To submit an estimate of
Potential,
additional issuance of the open space bond up to $400,000.
For the record, I'm gonna have to abstain on that.
okay.
Did I vote? We
So
voted.
We didn't vote it yet.
We did vote.
Oh, we did vote?
No?
Oh,
I thought we did, but
We did.
anyways, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain?
Abstained at this
All
time.
abstain.
Yep.
Motion carries.
I mean, I wish we didn't have a 1-week deadline, but we were just notified, I think, a week or two ago that this was the schedule, so.
Yeah.
We're doing the best we can.
Yep.
Thank you.
oh. Oh, yeah.
No, we didn't.
Skip it for the next
So I
meeting.
have a-
Next meeting. July 9 was the meeting.
Okay,
We have pizza if you get weary. I don't know on sugar.
do we want to talk about speaker ideas for November? Okay.
Can I just answer that in 2 seconds? So we got an invitation from, or an email from Sarah Callahan, who is the new UNH Cooperative Extension
Yes.
Specialist located in Rockingham. She asked for 15 minutes to present, to introduce herself, and also to introduce the idea of creating a roundtable of Concoms in our area. Those are very successful in the Seacoast and other parts of the state where the commissions get together a chair or a representative of each to share ideas. I would like to make I would like to invite her into the next meeting
November.
for 15 minutes.
November.
Does that have to be November?
No, we were alternating
That's what,
November.
I mean, it's not like an actual big, she just wants, it's up to whatever the committee decides. But she didn't ask for like a big presentation.
Okay.
She just asked for an introduction to introduce this idea.
15 minutes, okay.
So I don't know.
Everybody
whatever.
okay with that?
Yep.
I'll get back to her then and say to come in and provide whatever.
15 minutes, okay. Elect new chair.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's right there.
I make a motion to elect Jeff, new chair.
That's not a real motion.
Welcome
We
to your
could've just-
first meeting.
No, he didn't make. Thank you for that,
Let
Rob.
the record show Jeff turned off my mic.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Didn't see that coming.
Kid. Is anybody interested in being chair?
Nope.
Not currently.
And you co-chair? And 2 people co-chair?
Anyone can do anything. I think we can do anything we want. I mean, I will say just, and I could leave this with people. We did meet to try and brainstorm, Lise, Heather, and I a little bit, just over coffee or whatever on, well, honestly, trying to convince Heather, but it didn't work. But to try and make it easier, like Becky's saying, is we came up kind of with a very broad, like what responsibilities the Concom is, because Becky was the Uber chair, but took everything on her own shoulders, I think, and maybe burned herself out a little or not, but it was a lot, and you did an amazing job, but to try and spread it out more, and that might make it even more appealing for 1 or 2 people. So I can send this out and maybe we can talk about it at the next meeting, but we had, you know, like running the meetings, taking care of like DES permits, land management plans, town easements, responding to residents, people, I can give you this. You know, Michelle being the secretary, me taking on budget, potentially in open space, seeing if other people, like Jeff might kind of spearhead our technology or social media, document retention, and then we have many smaller little things. So somehow to really divvy up the responsibilities a lot more so that it's not on one person's shoulder, because it is a lot of hours, especially all of us are working still, so that takes on a lot of, and so maybe that's something that we could people could think about for the next meeting. I could share the kind of the responsibility list and see, I'm just kidding, Jeff.
I appreciate
On-
that, Rob.
You know, if someone might be willing to do it. I will note Lisa and I are the big chair. And Becky. That leaves. Yeah, I'll line copy everybody. People could think about it, see if there's things. We have some names put next to them. They don't have to stay if there's something you want to do. But maybe that'll make it better if there's less, you know, that you don't have to shoulder the whole responsibility yourself, which I think is very nice.
Yep, I agree.
So in the interim,
So in the interim, since I know I'm going to be traveling and be out of state, I need to hand the keys over to
No.
someone
No, no.
and the gavel and give you the code, give someone the code to open and close the building. Someone has to monitor the conservation the municipal one conservation email address. Because things come across all the time from the town or from various organizations.
okay, so we have email, keys.
And codes, yeah. And the gavel.
Lisa did such a great job at the meetings.
Mhm.
I mean, I can do emails.
So you'll take the
Although-
conservation
I mean,
email.
I'm gonna be traveling for 6 weeks coming up, which is not the best. But I mean, emails can be done.
Mhm.
I could do emails.
So you need to go to
What-
Jillian to get the,
I mean, should we have a motion or something,
Permission.
or do we need to? No? Okay, so I'm gonna take over the conservation.
email, conservation@brentwoodnh.gov.
Can we? Yeah, okay.
I need to keep it through Munger Nooney and then I will give it up.
As long as you want.
No, no.
You tell me when you're ready and I'll talk to Jillian.
Okay, for the interim, I'll forward you anything I come across that is not Munger Nooney.
Okay.
Okay. Keys to the building, I probably won't be here for the next meeting, so someone needs to lock up and open the building.
And I'm not gonna be here for
It's October 8th. Can't do it October 8th.
The keys.
Okay,
Thank you, Heather.
thank you, Heather. And I'll give you the code to open the security system. Actually, I'll write it right now. Here.
And you'll get to know the Kingston police, the Brentwood police.
Police,
Every time
yes.
you set off the alarm, a different police
Yes.
will come, whoever's covering the town for that day. I've met a lot of them in my time.
So have you ever locked the building? Okay, we'll walk through that.
The only thing I have left, oh, anything else, Becky? I'm sorry.
Gavel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't tell my husband.
And we can't stay this late. Yeah, well, we let Anna run a little, but that was good. So I have the last thing about this appraisal on a new property. Do we want to go into
Well, can we
do it in public?
do it in public?
I mean, we haven't shared any information with
We haven't shared
people
any
who are on the
information.
open
No,
space.
We don't have to say the actual.
But some people haven't seen the property at all, any description at all, like people that aren't on the open space committee. So I don't know if they would want to vote on it. No, would just postpone everything another month. We were ready to move ahead with the landowner. Be
Make it-
quick.
We'll make
So-
it quick, so.
Motion to go into non-public for reasons of confidential real estate transactions and whatever that subset is.
Ann, did you want to come up to the
Sorry,
table
Bruce.
and be part of the discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dexter.
Oh,
Monitor. Thank you, appreciate it.
thank you.
Oh, is that why you're acting like this?
Well, no, that's just me.
Okay, so we should turn all these mics off.
Hold on, I'm just still trying to figure out how to exit. Well, I did that, now is it exit?
Here, this camera.
Oh, it's off. And then we don't have to go back in.